My wife cheated on me with our lawyer, then suddenly claimed I stole $250, $0 from our joint account to hide her affair. Now she's threatening to take everything in a bitter legal battle I never saw coming. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. It started with a gut feeling I couldn't shake, then quickly spiraled into chaos I never saw coming. One night, I came home early from work, something I rarely did, and found my wife Lisa in our bedroom with our lawyer Mark. I caught them in the act, and it hit me like a freight train. The woman I'd trusted for years, the woman I thought I knew inside out, was cheating on me with someone I'd trusted with our legal affairs. That moment changed everything, but what followed was even more shocking. Lisa had always been a bit high maintenance, but she was also sharp and manipulative. She'd been acting strange for months, missing dinners, leaving her phone everywhere, getting defensive when I asked questions about her whereabouts. I brushed it off initially, thinking she was just stressed, maybe working late or dealing with her friends. But then I started noticing little things. Her phone ringing at odd hours, her avoiding eye contact, and her suddenly developing new habits, like wearing different perfume, hiding her phone, or acting paranoid when I was around. Still, I never thought she'd do something like this. Not with Mark, of all people. The real eye-opener came a week ago. I was going through our joint bank statements because I noticed some suspicious charges. Small at first, then bigger. I found withdrawals I didn't recognize, large sums of money disappearing from our account. I thought maybe I'd been hacked or there was some mistake. But then I noticed a transaction that made my stomach drop. A wire transfer of $50, $0 to a private account that was under her name but had no reason to be there. I confronted her that night. I asked her about the money, and she spun some bullshit about an investment opportunity, saying she was trying to diversify our portfolio. I pressed her harder, and that's when she got defensive, started throwing around accusations that I was paranoid, insecure, or maybe even jealous. She told me I was imagining things, that I was overreacting, but I knew better. I'd seen her behavior, the way she was acting around Mark, the secretive way she was handling her phone. Something was off, and I was starting to realize that maybe she'd been lying to me for months. Then came the night I found her with Mark. I can still see the look on her face when I walked in. Shock, anger, a flicker of fear. She tried to deny everything at first, saying she was just talking to him about our legal issues, that it was all innocent. But I saw her lipstick smudged, her hair a mess, and the way Mark looked guilty as hell. I saw the way they both froze when I entered. That's when I knew she'd been lying to me the entire time. The betrayal hit me hard. It wasn't just the affair, but the way she'd manipulated me, lied about the money, and tried to make me doubt myself. I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and confusion all at once. How could the woman I loved, the woman I thought was my partner, do this to me? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, left with a sick feeling in my stomach, wondering how I hadn't seen the signs sooner. All those little things she'd done, her secret phone calls, her unexplainable absences, they all meant something now. I was furious that she'd betrayed me, but I was also scared about what was coming next. That's when I realized I had to get to the bottom of this, no matter how much it hurt. I started digging into her phone, her emails, and our finances even more, determined to find out exactly what she was hiding. I knew she was lying and that she had some grand scheme to cover her tracks. But I also knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without consequences. The trust was broken, and I was starting to see that I'd been living with a lie for a long time. Now, I had to figure out what to do next. The more I looked into her phone and bank accounts, the more I realized how deep this rabbit hole went. Lisa had always been good at hiding things, but her secrets were spilling out now. I found messages between her and Mark, explicit, flirty, sometimes downright inappropriate. They'd been texting for months, planning meetings, exchanging pictures. I saw texts where she called him my lawyer, my confidant, and even the only one who truly understands me. It made me sick to my stomach. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I started remembering all the little things that didn't add up. Her sudden interest in expensive jewelry, her insistence on buying that new designer purse, her trips out of town that she'd never mentioned before. Turns out, she'd been using our money to finance her affair, all while pretending to be the devoted wife. I also uncovered a series of secret meetings she'd scheduled with Mark in hotels, places I never thought she'd go. It was like she was living a double life, and I was just now catching on. One night I decided I'd confront her again, this time with everything laid out in front of her. I told her I knew about the affair, about the money, everything. She looked me straight in the eyes, her face a mask of contempt, and then she started lying again. Said it was all a mistake, that Mark was just helping her with some legal issues, that I was paranoid, that I was overreacting. She told me she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. But her words felt hollow, like she was just trying to manipulate me further. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but she refused to admit to anything concrete. That moment crushed me. I'd always believed in honesty, in the sanctity of our marriage. But now I felt like I'd been living with a stranger all along. My wife, Lisa, wasn't just cheating on me, she was lying, stealing, and using me. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't even know how to process it. I was furious, but also heartbroken. I'd trusted her with everything, and she'd thrown it all away for some cheap thrill and greed. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies, and I didn't know how to find my way back to solid ground. The hardest part was realizing that I was no longer sure who I could trust. I'd always been the one to keep things together, to fix the problems, to hold the family together. But now my wife was the problem, and I was left feeling helpless. I was angry at her for what she did, angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, and angry at Mark for being so damn careless. I kept asking myself how I'd let it get so bad, how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been blind to the woman I thought I knew. I knew I had to act, but I didn't want to rush into anything without thinking it through. I started thinking about what this all meant for my future. Could I forgive her? Could I rebuild trust? Or was this the end of everything we had? I was torn between wanting to confront her again, to demand answers, and the instinct to protect myself from more pain. I decided I needed time to think, to gather all the facts, and to plan my next move carefully. But one thing was clear: this wasn't just about a cheating wife anymore. It was about betrayal on every level, and I was determined to find out how far it went. I'd always believed in honesty and loyalty, but now I was faced with a stark reality. Someone I loved had betrayed me in ways I never imagined possible, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it without consequences. I had to figure out how to turn this nightmare into my revenge. After I gathered all the evidence, the texts, emails, bank statements, everything that painted a clear picture of her betrayal, I knew I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I was furious, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. Lisa had been lying for months, manipulating everyone around her, and now she was trying to spin it as if I was the bad guy. That's when I decided I needed a plan, one that would hit her where it hurt and make her realize she couldn't keep playing me for a fool. First, I contacted a lawyer I'd known from a previous case, someone discreet and sharp. I told him everything from the affair to the stolen money and asked what my options were. He advised me to gather everything, more than I already had, and to prepare for a legal battle. I knew Lisa was the kind of person who'd fight dirty, so I had to be ready for anything. I also started thinking about how to use the financial evidence to my advantage. If she was trying to claim I stole money, I needed to make sure the court saw who the real thief was, her. Meanwhile, I started subtly collecting more info. I hired a private investigator to follow her, just to confirm everything I suspected. It was uncomfortable knowing someone was watching my wife, but I needed proof that she was still sneaking around, still lying, still cheating. Turns out she was. The pie caught her meeting Mark again late at night at a hotel downtown. She was in a room with him, laughing, drinking, clearly not just discussing legal matters. Seeing that footage made my blood boil. I had everything I needed now. One night I confronted her directly. I told her I knew about the meetings, the money, everything. Her reaction was pure deflection. She started crying, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her, saying I was just jealous. She insisted she was innocent, that Mark was just helping her with some legal issues and that I was overreacting. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I saw her for what she was, a liar, a manipulator, a cheat. I told her I was done playing her game, that I was going to take her to court and expose her for who she really was. The emotional toll was intense. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. I'd loved Lisa, I'd trusted her, and now I was facing the reality that she'd been cheating on me with our lawyer, stealing money, and lying straight to my face. Every time I thought about it, I felt like I was drowning. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moments I missed, questioning how I'd missed all the signs. I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. But amid all this chaos, I realized I had to focus on my future. I couldn't keep living in anger and pain. I decided I'd fight for what was rightfully mine, my dignity, my peace of mind, and whatever assets she was trying to hide or manipulate. I knew she'd try to spin the story in her favor, claiming I was the villain, but I had proof and witnesses now. I was prepared to go all the way to make sure she paid for her lies, not just financially but emotionally too. This wasn't just about money or infidelity anymore. It was about respect, trust, and the truth. And I was finally starting to see that I had to take control of my own life again. No matter how much it hurt, I knew I couldn't let her walk all over me. I had to stand up, face the storm, and fight back. Because if I didn't, she'd keep lying, cheating, and taking everything I had left. I wasn't going to let that happen. I owed myself that much. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I handed over all my evidence. My lawyer drew up papers that outlined everything: her affair, the stolen money, the secret meetings with Mark, and the false accusations she was threatening to throw at me. The moment I submitted those to the court, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief that I was finally taking control, but dread because I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. Lisa always played dirty, and I had no doubt she was planning her own counterattack. She did try to spin things her way, of course. The moment she found out I was going to sue for divorce and financial separation, she flipped her script. Suddenly, I was the one who'd stolen $250, $0 from our joint account, her words, her accusations. She claimed I was a thief, that I'd been secretly siphoning money for my own bad habits. I couldn't believe how fast she shifted blame, how she spun the story to make herself look innocent. It was classic Lisa. She'd lie, deny, and manipulate until she got her way. Her threats escalated quickly. She started telling friends, family, anyone who would listen, that I was a criminal, that I'd been secretly stealing from her all along. She even hired a lawyer of her own, trying to paint me as the bad guy. It was like she was trying to turn everyone against me, hoping that if she could sway the court or our social circle, she'd win the battle before it even started. But I had the evidence, and I wasn't backing down. I knew her game, and I was prepared to fight fire with fire. The most surprising part was her sudden change in behavior. She became bitchier, more aggressive, trying to control every conversation, every decision. Her attitude was, "You're not going to take everything from me," as if she thought she could bully her way through this. But I wasn't going to let her. I started documenting her actions, recording her threats, saving every message she sent me that was laced with anger and accusations. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. Meanwhile, her accusations about me stealing money were so far off base it was laughable. I had never touched that account, never even knew she was secretly transferring funds. All of her claims were just her desperate attempt to cover her own tracks. I worked with my lawyer to prepare a detailed financial analysis that proved I had nothing to do with the missing money. I also reached out to the bank to get official statements showing that I never authorized any of those transfers. The more I dug, the clearer it became. Lisa was the one behind it all. She was trying to distract me, confuse the court, and shift blame. It was a roller coaster. One day I'd feel confident, thinking I had all the evidence I needed. The next, she'd come at me with new accusations, new lies, trying to throw me off. I learned quickly how to stay calm, how to stick to the facts, and not to get caught up in her emotional games. I knew she thrived on drama, on making me doubt myself, but I refused to let her manipulate me anymore. I had to stay focused, stay strong, and keep pushing forward. The hardest part was seeing her become more bitter, more vindictive. She'd call me names, threaten to take everything, even my job, my reputation. She said she'd ruin me if she had to, just to come out on top. It was terrifying, but I also knew this was her desperation talking. I had to hold my ground and prepare for whatever she threw my way. I started talking to friends, gathering support, and making sure I had a clear plan for the fight ahead. Because I knew this wasn't just about money or infidelity anymore. It was about her trying to destroy me. And I wasn't going to let her. I kept telling myself that I'd done nothing wrong, that I was the victim of her betrayal, her lies, her greed. All I wanted was a clean break, a fresh start, and to make sure she paid for the damage she caused. But even as I prepared for the legal battle, I couldn't shake the feeling of loss. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd married, was gone, replaced by someone bitter, manipulative, and willing to destroy everything in her path. That realization hurt more than anything. Still, I knew I had to keep fighting. I owed myself that much. The court date finally arrived and I was ready. I had everything lined up, all the evidence, the bank statements, the private investigator's footage, and my lawyer's meticulous analysis. Lisa showed up with her new lawyer, looking furious and even more bitter than before. She tried her usual tactics, shrill accusations, crying crocodile tears, and outright lies. She claimed I was a criminal, a thief, someone who had been secretly siphoning money and cheating her all along. It was pathetic how she tried to spin the story, but I had the proof that she was the one behind the theft, not me. During the hearing, Lisa's lawyer tried to paint her as the victim, claiming she was just trying to protect her assets from a reckless husband. She sat there, crying, insisting she never cheated, never stole a dime, and that I was the one who'd been manipulative and controlling. Her entire narrative was a desperate attempt to save face, but I could see right through it. The judge listened carefully, reviewing the evidence I presented, including the bank records, the messages, and the footage of her with Mark. It was clear who was lying. The courtroom was tense. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief because I finally had the truth on my side, and anger because I'd been betrayed so badly. The judge eventually ruled in my favor, awarding me the lion's share of the assets and ordering Lisa to pay back the stolen money. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental after everything I'd been through. Still, the damage was done, and I knew Lisa wasn't going to go down quietly. After the case, she didn't disappear quietly into the night. No, she ramped up her threats. She told me she'd fight me in every way possible, legal, financial, and personal. She even threatened to take everything I owned, to ruin my reputation, and to drag me through the mud in front of everyone I knew. Her bitterness was now her weapon, and I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. She was capable of anything to get her way. I decided to cut all ties. I moved out of our house, changed my phone number, and started rebuilding my life from scratch. I knew I'd have to face a long road of recovery, of trusting again, but I was determined to come out stronger. The betrayal had shattered my world, but it also taught me a hard lesson about trust, loyalty, and the importance of being vigilant. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones capable of the deepest betrayals. Looking back, I still can't believe how far things went. It's like I was living in some bad soap opera, except it was real life. I often wonder how Lisa could turn into such a bitter, manipulative person. But more than that, I wonder how I missed all the signs for so long. I trusted her to be honest, to be faithful, and to be my partner. Instead, she was scheming behind my back, lying to everyone, stealing from us, and putting on a brave face. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I've come to accept that I can't change the past. The biggest lesson I've learned is to never ignore the small signs. The little comments, the secretive behavior, the unexplained absences, they all add up. If I could give anyone advice from my experience, it's this: pay attention, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to dig deep if something feels off. Because sometimes the truth is uglier than you ever imagined, and it's better to face it early than to get blindsided like I did. Now I'm focusing on myself. I'm rebuilding my life one step at a time. I've started therapy, reconnected with friends, and even picked up some hobbies I'd abandoned. The pain still lingers, but I know I'll get through it. And someday I hope to find someone who's honest, loyal, and worthy of my trust. Because after everything, I still believe in love. I just know now to be more cautious. And I'll never let someone betray me like that again. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole nightmare changed me. I used to think marriage was about trust, about sharing your life with someone who's supposed to have your back no matter what. But I learned the hard way that some people can hide their true colors behind a mask of charm and affection, only to reveal their real selves when it's too late. Lisa's betrayal didn't just shatter my marriage. It shattered my sense of security and trust in people. It forced me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about relationships, loyalty, and honesty. One thing I've come to understand is that betrayal isn't always obvious at first. It sneaks in slowly in small lies and half-truths until one day everything blows up in your face. Looking back, I see all the signs I ignored or dismissed. The little things she brushed off, the way she dodged questions, the secretive phone calls. If I'd paid closer attention, maybe I could have caught her sooner. But at the same time, I also realize that sometimes people are masters of deception, and even the most cautious among us can be blindsided. The most valuable lesson I've taken from all this is about self-worth. I allowed myself to be manipulated and lied to for so long because I wanted to believe in the best of her, in the marriage we built. But I can't let myself be a victim of someone else's lies anymore. I've learned to stand up for myself, to trust my instincts, and to never ignore the warning signs. I've also learned that healing takes time, and forgiveness isn't always about forgetting. Sometimes, it's about letting go of the anger and pain that hold you back. Now, I focus on rebuilding my life, piece by piece. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional aftermath, and I've been reaching out to friends I distanced myself from during the chaos. I've also learned to be more cautious in trusting people, but not so much that I shut myself off completely. I still believe in love and genuine connections, but I know I have to be more careful about who I let into my life. To anyone going through something similar, I'd say this: don't ignore the small signs. Be honest with yourself about what you see and feel. And most importantly, never let someone's betrayal define you. It hurts like hell, but you're stronger than you think. You can survive, grow, and even trust again. It's not easy and it's not quick, but life goes on. And in the end, you'll find that the pain, the betrayal, and the heartbreak all serve to make you more resilient, more aware, and ultimately more prepared for whatever life throws your way. I don't regret the lessons I've learned, even if they came at a terrible cost. Because now I know my worth, I know what to look out for, and I know that I deserve honesty and loyalty. Lisa's betrayal was a brutal wake-up call, but it also pushed me to become a stronger, wiser version of myself. And for that, I am grateful. Life goes on, and I plan to face it with my head held high, knowing that I survived the storm and came out the other side.